everybody. Welcome back to the Just Make It Pretty podcast. Today, we are talking about fractional leadership and the future of home building marketing. And I have a guest with me today that I'm super excited to introduce you guys. You probably already know who she is, but this is for sure going to be a really interesting topic about how fractional leadership is changing our industry. So let's get into it. Welcome to the Just Make It Pretty podcast, the slightly unhinged marketing podcast for home builders and beyond. I'm your host, Sara Haynes, also known as the Pixel Wizard, and my goal is to tackle the tough stuff that goes in behind the scenes in marketing and offer actionable tips, creative insights, and a little bit of humor to spark some creativity. I'm so glad you're here. Now let's get started. So I am super excited to introduce Sara Williams. She is the founder of Aras Co. She delivers sales, marketing, and strategic consulting with 26 years of proven results. And so I am just so honored that you are willing to come on the show today, Sara. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
Of course. I know a little bit about what you're doing, but it was pretty new. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and the mission for your new company?
All right. For those of you that don't know who I am, I've been in our industry for over 21 years, but been in sales and marketing for over 26 years. 21 years ago, I got introduced to our industry. Everyone has that, like, how did you end up here kind of story? But I started out in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. My husband's from Pittsburgh. I'm from Philadelphia. So we got engaged and I moved across the state to Pittsburgh and got a job with a company called Heartland Homes. And I was an on-site salesperson. So that is how I started. And from there, I went into the home office and became a marketing coordinator and launched their online sales program, which back then, many years ago, there was really none. There was very few, I should say, very few online sales programs out there. We also launched a CRM during my tenure there. I was there for just under 11 years. We also launched an ERP system, Mark Systems. So there was a lot of things. We went from 11 neighborhoods to 33, so massive growth. We launched a pre-sale program. So Sara, I know you wrote a really good article not that long ago about community launches. And it just brought me right back to my time of working at Heartland Homes and doing community launches and making all the mistakes in the book until we really refined a process that we duplicated. So lots of success there during my tenure at Heartland. And then I got recruited to become a marketing director in Charleston, South Carolina. So I packed up my whole family and moved to Charleston to work for another growing business, another growing builder that was looking to do something very similar to what we were doing at Heartland Homes, moving into additional regions. We were at that point all over Pittsburgh, and we had moved into West Virginia, and we were going into Raleigh, North Carolina, and Pittsburgh. So the builder in Charleston was also looking to do something similar, not the same markets, but they were looking to grow. They're also looking to launch an online sales program. They were getting ready to launch a CRM program, and my background just fit perfectly. So that's how I ended up in Charleston, and I worked for them. And as you're doing our jobs, like every day, I had just this obsession with technology and implementing technology, training teams on technology. So from my time at Heartland and my time at Sable Homes, which is now Toll Brothers in Charleston, that is where I was thriving. So with that being said, I transitioned from working for home builders into working for tech companies. Had a fabulous time and did all the things at Sable Homes, launched that OSC program, launched a brand new website, launched their CRM, did all those things, but then transitioned to go and work for Lasso CRM. That was the CRM that I had so much success with in my previous builders. And what I did there is I grew that company. They were predominantly in Vancouver with a good amount of builders in the United States, but not as many. The majority of our clients were condos. And when I came on board, my story of OSC, and I had won the Online Sales Counselor of the Year award. It was like the first time they offered it. I ended up winning that back in my time in Pittsburgh. So I had a really good story to tell at Lasso, and I ended up working there for 6 years. So 4 years at Lasso and then 2 years at ECI after ECI bought Lasso. And then I moved on and started working at Inugo. And that was a really great time. We did a whole rebrand and launched more products than I can list because there's so many products there. I worked there for 3.5 years, and then I moved on to Sicilian Partners, and I worked there for just about a year as Chief Revenue Officer, and then decided it was time to take the leap. to Aras Co, which is where I am today. I launched the company in June. And the reason why I've always wanted to have my own company and do this is because all that experience, 26 years of doing sales and marketing, but the conversations that I was getting to have, whether I was selling technology or even working at the builder level, just getting down and strategizing is my favorite thing to do. So getting to work for myself, I'm able to work with not only builders, not only tech companies, but I also work with industry partners, all looking to amplify their voices and really show up, whether it's to sell to consumers or sell to builders. So I have track records in all those departments. And now I get to do it full time on my own terms. And that's really what drove me to be able to do it. I've been doing it for years. I always joke around. I've been consulting for years, just not necessarily part of my title, but we're not getting paid for it. A lot of times I was doing it on the side and for free.
I'm so excited for everything that you're doing with your new business. And I think I met you when you were at a Nugo. So it's been a while, but I've always just been impressed with how kind you are, but how you have so much knowledge that you share so freely. And I just love that. So I'm excited to have you talk today about this fractional leadership movement, because what you're doing now, I feel like is a big movement, not only in home building and consulting, but in the world, because businesses are really navigating how they can structure leadership and how the industry is changing and how buyers are changing and how that is affecting them. I think I've just seen a big shift into that direction. And I'm curious to see or to hear what your take on that is, and how fractional leadership is actually different than just outsourcing a position.
That's great. So fractional leadership, or just fractional work, to me is really being able to work with companies. And whether fractional, I think it's to the receiver, whether that sounds positive or negative. I think it gets received a lot of different ways depending on who the audience is. But what it means to me is that, hey, you can hire me. You need someone with my level of expertise, but you might not have it in the budget to be able to hire someone with 26 years of experience. You need my level of strategy or guidance to go through. Maybe it's for a period of time, maybe it's for the long term. So it just depends. And that flexibility feels really good to the companies that I'm working with and feels really good to the companies I'm talking to. So having that person with that level of expertise come in, but on their terms, meaning on the client's terms. So if it's hey, I need you for this project, can you come in and bring that special expertise because I know you've done X, Y, and Z at these other companies. Can you come in and lead this project? It could be a project based, or it could be, I need you as an extension of our team for the long haul. I'd love to bring you in full time, but one, you want to own your own company. I've had those conversations. Hey, will you just come work for me? I'm I literally just started my own company. Let me do this for a while first before I take another full-time job? But so sometimes it's I'm another team member, but not 40 hours a week or 60 hours a week. I'm working, I'm showing up, I'm sitting in meetings, I'm a voice at the table. I'm helping steer the ship. I'm helping guide the team. I'm helping pull the levers to get things to happen. So I do think, again, it's really the best of both worlds for the clients that I'm working with, because they get all of that, but within the amount of money and budget that they have or they've allotted to it. Are my fees going to be able to fit everybody's allotted budget? Maybe not, but for the most part, it's been going really well and people are seeing value in it. And I'm having a whole lot of fun doing it.
I couldn't agree more. And I love that as a fractional leader, you can bring a lot of fresh ideas and new things that you learn from different markets. And I think that's a huge benefit for builders. I can say, oh, I know this is a problem nationwide. All of my builders are having this same issue. And I can impact a lot more and bring insights into a builder that maybe would not have been able to get those insights before. So it's really exciting and it's really fun because I feel like you can really help companies this way. So that's why I love it. But why do
That's
you
a great point. I 1,000% agree with you. And I'm glad you added that, because that is a huge part of it, right? That you get the value of all of those other clients that I'm working with as well. Yep.
I started my career not in the home building industry. So even some of those insights, being able to bring that in, this works really well for healthcare or whatever. It's just a new idea to home building. Is really not that new of an idea to marketing in general. But that's fun too, to bring in those crossover things. And so when builders are open for that kind of stuff, it makes me really excited.
No, I agree, Sarah. And I do think too, after doing this for so many years, the leaders that I love to work with the most were the ones that weren't afraid to try new things. And I'm not saying you can blow your whole budget on trying new things all the time. Like you and I've talked, like the shiny object thing. You can't just throw all your money at the shiny objects, but being able to try something, hey, this works in healthcare, let's try it here. Or this actually worked really well during my time at X company or Y company. Let's give it a shot. I think being an owner and being open to trying new things and not just the same old, we've always done it this way. And I think that's what bringing a fractional leader in. It's, if the old stuff always worked, then why am I here? There's going to be some things that work really well that we're not going to change, but there's a reason that you sought out help, that things aren't going exactly the way that you had planned. With the current team potentially, or it needs a little bit more strategy or a little bit more leadership. But those new ideas and those fresh ideas are what I love to bring as well. And I want to work with partners that aren't afraid to try those new ideas, because we always did it this way. It's just like I break out in a rash.
Yes, I just wrote a whole blog about that, about how marketing specifically, it's like we have to stop doing the same things over and over. Like, and I think it's easy to get into those comfort zones, but I enjoy being the one to be like, hey, I've got a crazy idea. Let's try this, and like actually bring that impact. Because in some ways, like when you do that and you've made a big impact for a builder and they are able to take like something in-house, even if it's my position, that's a huge compliment to me. It's, we were able to get you from square one to now here, that you are able to take it in-house. Like, how cool is that?
No, I think that's so satisfying. And that's the whole thing. Like I know as a fractional leader, this could be a limited engagement or it could be the long haul. And I'm okay with that. So I don't want anyone to ever feel bad about that because my goal is to right the ship. My goal is to strengthen the company that I'm in so that they can stand, or help them fill the seat, or get them to a point, or coach the person that I'm working alongside so they can now lead the team. So whatever that company needs, and every company needs something different, like that is so satisfying if we can get that team to that point. If you want me for that whole period of time, great. But if we would talk about those goals, right? If you're like, hey, we really want to get this person strengthened, that is coaching and getting and righting that ship and getting it stabilized and having the team on the ground that has been there and is going to be there and is a full-time employee. Like I prefer that. That's, like you said, it's just so much more satisfying.
And a lot of times all they really need is that coaching or like some processes, and just like they need the playbook to be able to then go and run with it. And there are so many really talented sales leaders and marketing leaders that just don't have the tools yet. And then once they have them, it's like rocket ship, they're off. And that's very exciting to see.
Agreed.
So why do you think now this kind of model is, why do you think builders are thinking more about this kind of model now? Do you feel like there's a shift that's happened in the world, or, why?
Oh gosh, I do think there's we can unpack this because I feel like there's a lot of reasons. I think the economy is one. I think there's talent that's out there that they have been wanting to work with that's now available in that capacity that they can tap into. So the more folks that are going into more fractional roles, that talent pool is growing. So if you're a builder, you're like, oh, I've been watching this person for a while. I would love to work with them in some capacity. Now they can tap into that. So there's that. But I do think just the way that we all work together, I think obviously COVID changed the way that we work. I tease all the time. I'm like, I've been Zooming for over a decade because I've been working at home. But a lot of folks just started 5 years ago in remote work and things like that. So I do think there's the economy, but there's also the way that people are okay working with remote folks. They're a lot more comfortable. There's a bigger trust there that someone's not going to take advantage, or that they feel connected. All the things that I think 5 years ago when COVID actually happened, that the people were panicked and worried about. I think has subsided. Now there's a lot of return to work happening at big, large organizations, but getting back to what we were originally talking about is that if you have a project or you have a need within your organization and you can't find the right fit, now you can fish from this bigger pond of fractional folks that you can tap into and bring in that level of expertise, whether I live across the country or a state away or a couple cities away, that I can tap into your organization and give you that same value. So I think it's multifaceted there of why now. And it is a movement. I do think there's people that hit a certain point in their career where they want to do this. So there's more and more people coming into the market as a fractional employee or like offering fractional services.
It's funny that you say that because I remember when I first started my business and I would joke and I was like, I've been doing Zoom meetings before they were cool. And I would have to like explain to people like the first like 10 minutes of the meeting was like, here's how you use Zoom. Here's what, is going to happen. And like people were like, oh, are you in my computer now? Can you see everything? You're like, I got the wildest questions. So like when COVID hit and then everyone got more comfortable with it, oh, I was so relieved because like this is like the best case scenario for me and for a lot of professionals like that. I love working remote. And so having that ability to work with anybody, anywhere. And now that the technology piece is not as much of a struggle, it's just taken off.
Right. I do feel like so many more people are comfortable. Years ago, before COVID, that those times I would be on a Zoom because I was selling CRMs and doing demos. And I can't tell you, nobody turned on their camera. Like nobody turned on their camera. They're like, I'm sorry, I don't have a camera, or there was always something. And as soon as COVID hit, suddenly everyone's cameras were on. And I would be like, oh, that's the part I had to get used to because for so long, nobody that I talked to wanted to be on camera. And then suddenly during COVID, everyone's cameras were on. So I had to make sure I was like camera ready. So that was because nobody wanted to turn on there and everyone's like, they didn't want to see themselves. So yeah, but I thoroughly enjoy even like our conversation right now that we're able to do this, seeing someone. There's so many people that I've like never met in like person, so to speak, but I've done a Zoom with that I feel like I've known them forever. And when I see them, I just saw them yesterday, literally, because we talk on Zoom all the time. So I do feel like working remote, and people are probably chuckling. We're like, we've been doing this, but it's only been 5 years for most of America or most of the country or the world. But for us, you and I, we've been doing it for so long, but I love that everyone's caught up to us. And it's more normalized because I've been so comfortable with this for so long. I just love that more and more people will accept working this way.
Yeah, and it makes meeting in person really fun too, because then you're like, oh my gosh, you're like really tall, or like that's always the big thing is like, how tall are you actually?
I had someone, it was the opposite. I met them in real life after doing Zooms and talking to them on the phone and whatever, not being on camera, they were shorter. I'm short, but people assume that I'm tall, but I'm actually short. You're really tall. But this person was so much shorter than me, and I'm pretty short. So I was stunned. Like when I met them, I was like my jaw, and I was like, oh, I couldn't. It was the weirdest thing, and I was just like, okay, Sarah, like your face reveals a little bit too much. But your face, like, it was the opposite of that. Yeah. And I think I might have said something to her. It was a female, and she was like cracking up, and I was like, because I probably made a joke, and I was like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. Just this tiny little thing. Yeah, but it is. You can't tell how tall anyone is. Oh. Or if they've never heard this, again, before COVID, when we were just be on Zooms all the time, but just voice, I remember people were imagining what someone looked like. And when they met them in person, they're like, you look nothing like what I had imagined you. And I was like, all you would have had to do is turn on that camera. Like you would have saw what that person looked like, or that, like on both sides. Yeah. But they're like, that was not the voice to the, but I remember for years and years, people knew me by my voice because of doing so many like webinars and demos and trainings and things. People identified me on airplanes by my voice before.
I never thought about that. This is an audio podcast too. We do video obviously too, but like, oh my gosh, people could recognize me from my voice now. I never thought of that.
And This person was like behind me on an airplane and they're like, "Are you Sara Williams?" And I was like,
Oh
I
my gosh.
couldn't even see who they were. And I was like, yeah, who are you?
Oh my gosh. That's like new goal unlocked for the podcast. Someone needs to recognize me just for my voice.
Here's the thing. That was super because I didn't have a podcast, but it was from a training that I had done for their builder. And it was very comical, but I was like, I should take this. I don't know how to take this. Either my voice is so memorable. Is it in a good way, in a bad way? I didn't ask because I didn't really want to know, but it's funny. Yeah.
I'm going to start making trading cards for myself that I can send to people or put on screen before they meet me in person. Cause I always get oh my God, you're so tall. I didn't know 5'7" was that tall for a woman, but apparently I'm ginormous. So
maybe during our bios or introductions, you can be like, "Hi, I'm Sara and I'm 5, I don't know, 10. I don't know how tall you are. 5'9".
5'7".
5'7". So you're not okay. I made you even taller. But yeah, I'm 5'7", brunette. Yeah, whatever you want to say.
Yeah. That's so funny. I definitely agree with everything you said about remote work. I think that I'm really just excited that like the industry has embraced it the way that they have. And even I know the home building industry, we always make the joke of, oh, we're slow to innovate, or it's true, but I do feel like with fractional leadership coming into play more, some of that is starting to break down, and I'm seeing so many new tech companies popping up that are doing amazing things. So I'm really excited about that side of it as well. And I know you love technology. I'd love to hear like your side of that. What is your opinion on innovating in this industry?
Thank you. I do love technology. I think there's so many companies that do pop up. So there's almost for our builders, it's not like buyer beware, but there's proceed with caution. Yeah. Not everything is exactly what it seems, but there's some really cool stuff like that is out there that you need to be open to trying and doing too. So there's a little bit of everything. And I have described myself as like an interpreter of builder to tech company or tech company to builder, either way, because depending on who I'm working for, like I can totally interpret and know what to look for and ask questions to tech companies for the builder, for what the builder needs, and to flesh out whether or not I like to think of, is it vaporware or not? Is it actually going to help that builder? Or I can just ask the right questions. I'll just say that to steer and move it along. I'm not looking to kind of poke holes, but I'm definitely looking to make sure that this is something that's going to, one, be around for the long haul, two, that they've thought through like how they're going to either integrate, what partners are they working with, do they know that they need to be working with partners in order to be successful? There's certain telltale signs for me that sometimes they're so new and they don't know. And that's something I could totally help a tech company with. It's like, here's what you really need to do to get traction. But for our builders, the innovation, like you just said, that's happening in tech is incredible. AI, for one, I get to see a lot of products of what's coming out or what's about to come out. People want me to look at their products to get a hot take. How can we position this product? So I feel like in the AI realm, there's a lot of cool stuff coming. I do think in the data set too, like data is king. And like, I know you, myself, Sherry, we've all talked about like the data is the gold mine. Builders, I don't know if they're really understanding what that means to them yet. So just, you can say own your own data, but if you don't know what to do with the data or how to read the data, it doesn't matter how much data, doesn't matter how much data you have. You do need your data because of AI, because of what's happening with AI. You need to have either a source to be able to gather it all, and AI is going to be able to sort through it. I know I hear a lot of tech companies saying, oh, you need it this way or you need it that way. AI is so smart and it's getting smarter by the day that they're going to be able to cut through and be able to make sense of a lot of this data, but you need to be able to gather it and have and invest in technology tools that are either gathering it for you or structuring it in a way. I do know like shopping behavior, like understanding your shopping behavior and working with tech companies that are looking for that. You need to see patterns. Again, I've worked with so many builders that you can give them all the data in the world and give them all of the reporting in the world. Most of them don't know how to read it, don't have time to read it, won't read it. Like no matter how much you're like, here's all of your information, they need someone like your eye to be like, okay, let's make sense of all of this. they don't usually have time today to go through it all and be able to create a strategy around that data. But I would say technology, what's coming, you need to be thinking about the data that the tech tool that you're using is collecting. I wouldn't worry as much as like who owns the data, as long as you can download your data and be able to pull it. Because right now, like everybody owns everyone's data. Zillow has data on us. Google has data on you. Amazon has data on you. Everybody has everybody's data. You just have to be able to, as a home builder, personally, you have to be able to download your data and be able to ship it and gather it with all your other tools. I know Sherry and I, your partner, we've talked about like having things that talk together. That is really important, very important. But sometimes there's that one tech tool that's just not going to ever work. You need to be able to pull that data. So if you're going to pick this rando tech tool that doesn't talk to any of your other stuff, and you're actually getting some really good information, you need to be able to take that data so you can group it with the other set that does talk to each other. So I know that probably sounds like a bunch of word salad to people out there, but that's where I know teams like Sarah's team and my team, like we can work through all of that, because unless we're really talking about a specific product and a specific thing you're trying to achieve in your company, we can't really get that granular about which tech tools. But I will say, keep an eye out for chatbots. I know that your team is really looking closely and using chatbots. I think that's going to change the way our builders do business in a huge way. Like whether it's workers, whether it's helping personal shoppers, I think it's going to change the way that our shoppers are interacting with us. That is huge. And I'll say this, we've had bots for a while, right? Yeah. But as we all know, like the bots that we had 6-7 years ago are not the bots that are here today. They keep getting smarter and smarter. So don't dismiss, this is the other thing too, don't dismiss a tech tool that you used 2 and 3 years ago and feel like it doesn't work, because I can guarantee that tech tool probably 2 or 3 years ago has improved by light years. So you should revisit it. If you're like, oh, we tried that and it was like 2 years ago, don't cancel it. Don't put it on the cancel culture, because I do think like I tried a chatbot 5 years ago. It's not even the same. It's apples to oranges. And I think a lot of tools have gotten better and better and strengthened because of AI, because of all the things that AI is allowing our technology companies to do now. They can move faster and develop faster, that they're going to see the goal. And if our tech companies aren't doing it, the goal is to use the AI to strengthen the tools that are already out there.
Yeah.
If they're not doing that, then like they're probably not going to be around for much longer. Yeah. So that's a question to ask too. Like, how are you leveraging AI to improve, whether it's your coding or building your tech? Because all of that is there. Like programmers are using AI every single day.
Yeah. It's crazy to me because like you look at AI and how much it changes, like it's not even the same as last week. There's something changing all the time. But I get like where builders, I talk to a lot of leaders and they're just like, I just don't even know like where to start. I don't know what to do. They're like, oh yeah, we've got data. What do I do? And so I hear that a lot. So having somebody there, as you said, like a translator, that's so helpful. And it's going to reduce that anxiety to innovate. I feel like the fear of innovation goes away when you understand it.
Agreed. Here's the thing too. You need to have a plan, right? It's just like, great, I have all this data. Now what? Yeah. I think it's talking more about what are your goals as a company? What are you trying to do? Because just having a big, like I'm saying, you need to make sure you have your data. That's such a broad statement. Yeah. But it's like, what's your mission critical goals as a company? To use AI is not a mission critical goal. Like you can use AI to help leverage to get to what your goal is. So AI is like that helper. So if your goal is to understand your buyers, understand where they're coming from, this is a marketing podcast. So understanding more about sales cycles, how long does it take for someone to get from discovering you to purchasing, and at what stage are we losing them? That's what I'm talking about. It's like you have to figure out like, what are you trying to understand about your business? And then how do you like, all right, is AI even available to help us answer that question? Do we have the data to be able to answer that question? Like, where do we begin? And then take it from there and then figure out, is AI, like, again, can we plug in AI to help us read through this data to get those and glean that answer? but you have to have, what are you trying to solve for before you can say, I need this tool to do this. Like that's not what I'm saying with AI. I think if we're talking about a chatbot or in your CRM, I love like AI translators for like from a Zoom meeting. Not all of our builders are having Zoom meetings like you and I do for like B2B interactions, but I love a good AI interpreter. What did you talk about? What are the takeaways? What do you need to do from this meeting? Those AI tools are just amazing. But when you're talking about your data set and like trying to build business problems, you need to be like, what's the business problem we're trying to understand? And then how can we solve for it? How can we answer these questions? And then what can we use to get to that answer faster? And that's where I think we're talking about AI specifically, like can you layer in AI to get to the answer faster? And is there a tool like a Power BI tool, a Tableau tool? Because a lot of those are layering in AI too, that they can read your data and get to those questions faster, that you don't have to have necessarily a data warehouse as a builder to be able to group all your information, but you do need to have you need to have all that information of the first visit to when they bought the home or when they had the first appointment or when they actually spoke to someone, whether it's an OSE or your on-site agent. Did they visit first or did they call first or did they register online first? All of those steps, and then figure out if there's patterns. All of that, I think, is important. That's, again, only one problem we're trying to solve. There's hundreds and thousands of problems businesses are trying to solve every day, like cost per lead, like all of these things that AI is layering in to HubSpot, and you just came back from inbound. I'm sure you could probably do a whole podcast on just what you learned about how HubSpot's going to be doing, how they're incorporating AI. So there's businesses are using this stuff day in and day out. It's like, where do I begin? Or I have all this data, but you can't say, how do I layer in AI, or let me just go buy this tool. Like, you need to understand what you're trying to solve for first and make sure that the tool that you're layering in makes sense and that there's a value to it, or the cost for the tool makes like that there's an ROI on it, right? Because there's a lot. I said on another podcast too that businesses go to IBS and just start buying stuff because someone told them that they needed this, and so they just go out and buy it. And there's no plan or strategy or what are you trying to solve with that tool? That is definitely something I can help.
Yeah, it's like you get the Frankenstein tech stack and you're just like, what was happening here?
Because one department said they needed this and another department needed that. And we know that sales and marketing need to be working together. Some groups do it better than others. But for me, I've been on the marketing and sales side a lot of times doing both simultaneously. You need to think like a salesperson. The salesperson needs to think like a marketer a lot of times and make sure, and what's the value to the other department? Is there a value by buying that tool and understanding what that value is? And if you're trying to make a case or plead a case, if you're a sales or marketer listening to this, you need to be able to sell it to the group of what's the why or what's in it for me. I learned that a long time ago selling technology. Everybody wants to know what's in it for me when you bring on a new tool. And then the next stage is, if you buy the tool, do you have a strong strategy for implementation?
It's so important. And there's so many things to think about. And it's easy to get like the shiny object syndrome where you're just like, oh, like that sounds cool. We should have that. And so I think there's definitely two sides. There's like the leaders and the builders who are just like, I just want to keep everything the way that it has been working. This is working. Why are we breaking something that's not broken? And then there's the other half that's just, we have this tool and this tool, and it's a slow down. You just need to focus on what are you actually trying to solve and do. But there's so many things coming out. It's like, well, we don't try it all.
And I've heard other people talk about this too. It's don't get distracted by the new thing. But at the same time, keeping a budget within your marketing budget to be able to try a new tool and see if it can work and use a small test group, not maybe launch it to your whole team, but have a testing ground to see if it is what you thought it was going to be, and try it out with if you're a community builder, with one community and with a really tech savvy salesperson. If it's a tool like that, like a marketing tool, if it's the marketing team, have your test group of, we're going to try this out and this is our trial period. I know it can be expensive, but if you create a budget for that, we used to do that all the time with CRMs, prove and show the proof and like the value, and then you're able to sell it to the actual end users a lot better when you can show. That's the goal. And that would be like a little tip to builders out there. It's, hey, start slow, figure out how it's going to impact the organization, try it in a small dose, and then launch it to more and more of the group. Once you put and then have that strategy of how are you going to roll it out. We used to, when I was selling technology, I worked with hundreds, if not thousands of builders, and we would always do it like, let's do a slow, a staggered rollout. Let's try it on this group, and then we'll try it on the next group, and then we'll bring the next group on. This way, if the strategy behind the rollout failed, you don't want to fail miserably across, because to get that second chance for a rollout, it's all about trust, right? Trust in the product as much as a trust in a person. If you fail at your first rollout of that product, it's going to be really hard to try to do a second rollout or with that same exact group. That's why I recommend doing staggered or slow rollouts for any technology. But it also helps give everybody a chance to and then you can show it to the next person. You're just really trying to iterate on that rollout as well, and make sure you understand the tools that you bought before you start trying to get the whole team on it.
Yeah.
Like that's another tip too, I would say, is make sure that whoever's leading it, and I'll give a third one too that I've seen with technology, is make sure someone's leading it, like leading the rollout. That's how, I could layer in as a fractional person, but if you don't have a Sara Williams to come in to help you roll these things out, you want to have someone who's leading it and make sure there's follow through and accountability to that person leading it. Because if you're like, all right, that's on her or him, and nobody pays attention to it, then, there has to be accountability, and you have to have someone leading the charge and following up and doing retraining and training and training, more training. There's so much I've learned over the years of how really successful tech rollouts and really lousy tech rollouts. And there's so many tips and tricks out there of what teams can do. And it doesn't matter. You could put in any tech tool and use those tips and tricks, because whether it's CRM, whether it's interactive something or other, whether it's ERPs, start small and then grow.
Yeah. Really good advice. Very good advice. Okay. So we're getting close to when we're going to be ending. I want to ask one more question, and then I definitely want to get where people can reach out to you as well. Okay. So my last question is, if you had a crystal ball and you could see the future for 3 to 5 years from now, what do you think this industry is going to look like in terms of fractional leadership, AI, all of the things we talked about today? I like the last question to be really hard.
Yeah. Okay. So 2 years ago, I was on a webinar and I was talking about AI. And I remember someone's like, how do you even know about AI? Where do you learn about AI? So that was 2 years ago to today. And would you say that today we're that would be a kind of a weird question to ask someone on a webinar 2 years later, right? Yeah. So I will say, one of my clients, they were doing a training yesterday on AI and teaching people as basic as ChatGPT, right? There's so many people that have never used ChatGPT, and they're teaching them how to prompt, right? In a training last week. So with that being said, I do think that the masses, because right now in my ecosystem, I feel like the masses are using ChatGPT or Perplexity or Claude, fill in the blank, some sort of engine, right? But I do think the masses are going to be using it. So if I would say 2 more years from now, I don't think that we'll be having those same types of training classes on how to prompt. I think the majority of at least Americans or people will be doing that. So that's AI, which I do think marketing is going to get harder before it gets easier again. So our work is cut out for us, Sarah, because it changes. Literally, a new article is born every day that makes us really I hate to say nervous, but just, oh boy, all right. And some of the stuff that's coming out now is, again, during that 2 year ago, I believe that was going to be the case 2 years ago. And I was speaking about it, that SEO is going to get harder. How people search for homes are going to be different. So I believe our industry are going to see it's going to get harder. I don't want to say worse, because I think it's going to get harder before it gets easier. for us to really understand how that search for new homes is going to be. So I think in the next 2 years, we're going to feel a lot of pain as marketers to figure out this new paradigm. And then if we can say 5 years from now, I think we're going to have so many new leaders in marketing in our industry that the voices of today, it's going to be a whole changing of the guards for those trusted people in the industry that people have always gone to, that in the past, I think it's going to look really different in 5 years. Like lots of new people and the conversations that are happening at conferences this week, next week, whatever the period of time is, are going to be nothing like those marketing conversations that are going to be happening in 5 years. The topics aren't going to be the same for our home builders. Can I say what those conversations are? No, I can't say what they are, but I think that how we're talking about marketing for home builders is going to be completely different than what you and I are talking about. I think some of the basic stuff will still exist, but the hard digital stuff, like all the digital stuff, is going to be completely different. Just like when we had social media, when social media came out, I've been around for all of this, like even probably like the beginning of the internet. I feel like I've watched the transformation. I think we're in we're going to have a whole new paradigm shift of that for our industry. And that's not to scare people. I think just keep learning, researching, reading. Don't poo-poo someone's ideas because it sounds crazy, because people thought I was crazy 2 years ago when I was talking about AI. I know there's a lot of people that just were giving advice that saying that what I might have been saying was a little bit too far out there, but those same people 2 years later are like, oh yeah, this is what you should be doing. I was like, that's what we were saying 2 years ago. So I think in 5 years, it's going to be even, again, I don't know what it's going to be, but it's going to be different. It's going to be exciting, but don't throw in the towel. I'm an eternal learner. Sarah, you are too. I'm just going to keep learning and growing. I've transformed myself over and over again and reinvented myself over and over again because I've had to go through all of the downturn, pandemic, like every sort of business cycle of our industry, of like real estate, but also of marketing. I was a telemarketer. I used to call people and do surveys. That's in college when I was like 19. Like that doesn't exist. And I always say, if you're from Pennsylvania and you go on the turnpike in the toll collectors or any town, Florida, wherever you have a toll, there's nobody in those booths anymore. It's all electronic. So like things are going to keep changing. Technology is changing. So just keep learning and reading and don't poo-poo people and call them too crazy because you might be eating those. And it might only be in 2 years, not in 5.
It's funny because in my intro for the podcast, it says the Slightly Unhinged Marketing Podcast. And that's exactly what I'm talking about because I do sometimes feel crazy. Like I'm saying all these things. But that's what I want. I want those conversations, to be able to give a voice to those conversations because it's not crazy. Like we are going to be in a completely different world. I believe that. And I believe it's exciting. I know some people, it freaks them out, and that's totally fair. I understand that as well. But like these are exciting times where we get to change how that trajectory is and all of those new voices and who we start giving platforms to. I'm thrilled for the future, even though I know it's, all the things I thought I knew, not going to know those anymore. That's all going to be wrong.
No, I don't know if it's wrong though. It's just for building, right? Because if you and I could sit around and talk about like one of my favorite people, Mel Servin, who I know you've talked to, she and I love because we're about the same age. We started similar times in the industry and talk about what it used to be like. And we crack up. A lot of the stuff we did was so hard. Like the way that the old way. That is why I'm such a huge advocate for technology because it's made my life so much easier. And that is what I want anyone that's listening is like, if you're still afraid of technology, like you need just to wrap your arms around it. It has changed the way we've done business across every aspect of our lives. And it changed marketing and it's going to keep changing. And that's okay. Look how far we've come. And that was it was about 22 years ago when I used a calculator to price out a home. And we didn't have laptops. We didn't have smartphones. Like we didn't have all that in 22 years, like how different our lives are. We take videos of homes with our cell phones, with our smartphones. Like if you told me that 20 years ago, I'd have been like, that sounds a little far out there. It sounds like the Jetsons, which was a childhood favorite show.
Love the Jetsons.
But 20 years happened in a flash, right? So in 2 to 5 years, I think we're on light speed right now because, like I was saying, 2 years ago, she sounds a little probably unhinged on this podcast or this webinar, but 2 years later, everyone's saying that like they're on board. And I do think in 2 years, it's just going to we're on a faster trajectory than we even were when the World Wide Web came out. We're just like we're on light speed. And I do feel like it can feel scary because there's the unknown, but it's just like, buckle up. Like, I love it. I've always loved technology. I love what it can do for us as businesses. I love the efficiencies it can bring to a business. I love the efficiencies it brings to my life. I don't think it's not taken any human part out of me. I think if you're a communicator, you're a communicator. If you don't want to communicate, you're going to hide behind anything you possibly can to not have to communicate. Just keep showing up, I think, and showing that you're empathetic, that you have an EQ, and that will be the difference of you and that, whatever, if it's a chatbot or whatever bot, from taking a job. I don't think it's going to take your job. I think your job is just going to look way different than it does today.
Yeah, for sure. And maybe we'll get the flying cars that could transform down into a briefcase from the Jetsons. You never know.
I would love that. My 16-year-old, when he was little, he used to say he wants a jetpack and a teleporter. And I was like, I can't wait, because we have family that lives so far away. I was like, I would love a teleporter or a jetpack. Like, how fun. I think there's some things like a jetpack even out now, not mainstream, but there's some different things. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, if I didn't have to fly commercial anymore, I could just transport to places. Amazing. I'm the first customer.
Same.
All right, Sarah, where can people reach out to you if they want to connect with you after this and learn more about you and your company?
So you can find me on my website, arisandco.com. You can email me at Sara Williams at Aras. It's ARAS and all spelled out ANDCO.com. Or you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. You can find me there and send me a DM or start to follow me. I'd love to connect.
Awesome. Thank you again so much for being here. I know we went over time with you, so I just really appreciate you donating your time to me and our listeners. And I hope that everyone that's listening found this inspirational and informational. And just don't be afraid. Like Sarah said, I feel like everything is so exciting right now. And I hope that's your number one takeaway from this. So any last words before we sign off?
No, I just thank you so much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it, Sarah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And everybody, please can follow the podcast. If you are on Spotify or an audio version, we're also on YouTube. Go over and check us out and link up with us on Instagram as well. I put a lot of clips out that are really quick and easy. All the best takeaways from our episodes are in those clips. So go check those out as well. And we will see you in the next one. Bye, everybody.
Bye.